It is 7 a.m. on the 7th of November. I'm in my chicken coop, looking at my chickens in the morning. I come in every morning and look after, just to check, make sure everybody's all right. Everybody made it through the night without any issues. No predators were around. I always look for signs of predators and scooping or sneaking around at night and all kinds of other things. So I always take issues. That is my one silky and one of my old English bantams. They're all wonderful birds. Bring me a lot of joy. Bring me a lot more joy than people, actually. I've learned to love the company of birds a hell of a lot more than people, to be quite honest with you. So it's we're several days out of an election, and it had me thinking about some things this morning. I go to check the news in the morning just to give a cursory look at the news, and I just hit the Google button really to just kind of check it out. And the funny thing is the first thing I see, you think the first thing that would be there would be the election results, right? It's not. And I noticed that even the day after the election. I thought that was just so bizarre. Just so bizarre. But this is the world we live in now. And I still think Trump is going to win. But what it's going to happen if he does, they're just going to say that he stole the election, he manipulated everything, and it's just going to be the same old song and dance, and nothing, and the same old thing's going to happen. And life goes on. You know, that's the interesting thing about conservatives. We're not going to riot, we're not going to burn, we're not going to loot because we didn't get our way. We'll wait to the next election cycle. But this is basically kind of my thinking. Historically speaking, human beings are vile creatures, whether you like it or not. Human beings, we are, for lack of a better term, sinful beings. You know, we're not like chickens where, you know, we know our place in the universe and we don't pretend to be anything else but a chicken. But human beings will pretend to be chickens. Human beings will think that they're actually deer. Human beings will think that they are always something they are not. And human beings will be happy to live in a delusion of self-denial and fantasy. And I cannot describe liberalism any better than that. And the core being of liberals is very simple. You need to contribute to my delusion. You need to contribute to my version of reality. You need to verify my version of reality, or you are evil. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, it's really what it comes down to. We know what's best for you, and if you don't submit to what we say and what we believe, then you're wicked and you're evil, and this is why anything goes with liberals, because it's anything that's wicked, anything that's horrible. I mean, they're just about, they will accept any kind of wickedness and deem it being good. And that's the problem. What I've come to learn about liberals, they will look, man, these people, come on, man. These people that think abortion is okay, they are all about believing science, but they don't believe that's a human being in a womb, and they think it's okay. And really, what it is abortion. It's just in its simple term, it's child sacrifice on the altar of convenience. It really is. It's child sacrifice based on your choices. that you don't want to live up to the consequences of your choices, and you take an easy way out, and you sacrifice a human life for your own convenience, or your own so-called happiness. And you know what? The truth is, it isn't any different than ancient people taking a child, taking their firstborn child, and putting it in the hands of a bronze-made statue that's really a giant potbelly stove. And because they want a better harvest, or because they want their herds to thrive, they would just throw a child onto cook their child. It's no different than the Aztecs taking people up to the temple and cutting their hearts out. It's no different, people. You may think it's different, but it isn't. It's just a different variation. And it's fine if you go about your life thinking that a God doesn't exist and you can do whatever the hell you want, because that's really what it comes down to. The whole thing, it's also what they call moral relativism. You can't base your moral compass on my moral compass. Well, I always use Hitler as a great example of that. Hitler did what made him happy. Hitler did what made him happy. Hitler did what he thought was right. Stalin, Mao, all those guys, all the communists are the worst. And liberals these days are communists. And we are going to live in a time, it's just a matter of time. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden, because once they get power, it's always going to be them. It will never be anybody else. And they will usher in a new reality. The prosecution of the churches will happen. A lot of things will happen. And just no matter what, and this is for people who have an understanding how these things work. Humanity has always been wicked, but people usually tried to fight that in some way, shape, form, or another. But when you start to embrace the decadence, when you start to embrace the darkness of the human heart, there's a problem. There's a huge problem when you start to embrace the darkness of the human heart and you start to call it good. Because this is what's happening. They're embracing they embrace everything that is decadent and horrible. They don't believe in what is good and what is right and what is true. It's all relative to them. So, regardless of who wins an election, the ideologies are still there, and it's going to grow worse over time, and it's going to grow worse. I mean, I'm grateful I'm at the end of my life, at the latter part of my life, because death is not something that I fear at all. I'm not frightened of death. I'm not even frightened about how I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die. I'm next in line. I'm the generation next in line, and I'm fearful for what's coming. And all you people who have children and grandchildren, your descendants are going to face some bullshit. I'm telling you, in this nation, in this world, they are going to face some bullshit, because you are going to see the rise of liberalism, where it's almost touted as a religion. If you don't think it's nonsense, I just want you to look at one thing. Just one thing only. Look at Hollywood. Look what Hollywood represents and the people that are in Hollywood. And look how they behave. And look how they want to force you to behave like them. Look what they're involved in. Look what they do. And in the end, it all comes to one thing in regards to them. They play make-believe for a living. They lie and deceive for a living. They do it so well that you think they are the actual characters that they portray. You don't even know who they are. And they think they have influence and power over people. And that's why politicians often look for endorsements from celebrities. You don't see that so much from conservative people. There might be one or two, but you don't see that. But man, on the liberal side, they get every kind of crazy mental case out there to plead their case. And particularly nowadays in pop culture and in pop music. And listen to their music, listen to the lyrics, and they get up there and they endorse that. If you don't understand, if you don't see that, why would you want the endorsement of people who lie for a living? Think about it. But you know what? It's what it comes down to. Human beings are not lovers of truth. Historically, human beings have never loved truth. Human beings are lovers of darkness, and light is disturbing to people that dwell in darkness. You don't want to look at light when you live in darkness. And it has a sad ending. And I'm going to leave with this one thought. Nothing escapes the judgment of God. Nothing. In the end, there's a reckoning. In the end, no matter what anybody believes, no matter what system you think you describe to, whether it may be Buddhism or Islam or whatever, in the end, that Old Testament God, the one they say doesn't exist, the one that was back then, he's not like that anymore. The one that was the one that was the one that's love, but the one that is also judgment and justice. He has to be just. God is not God unless he's just. And there's going to be an accounting. And there are things, it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of an angry God. That's the truth of the matter. So the thing that you have to ask yourself, are you right with him? Are you right? No matter what time you live in, no matter what it is. And I'm talking from a Christian perspective because that is where I come from. That will never change. No one will ever force me to see the world any differently. And historically speaking, people like me have always been, historically speaking, for the past 2,000 years, people like me were persecuted. People like me were burned at stakes. People like me had their heads chopped off. People like me were tortured, brutalized. And this message really is for Christians. Get off the high horse. And this is something that so many Christians don't even like to touch on. You will be counted as lambs for the slaughter for my sake. It's coming, folks. The political system is not going to protect you from what is coming. It's coming. And get ready for it. It's going to start in small increments, but it's already started. You can see it. You can see it in American culture. You can see it in Western culture. It's in Western culture already, across the board. Even in Europe, where Christianity more or less has died and just a remnant is there. The rise of the new world order, the new way of thinking, the enlightened ones are going to show you a better way. They're going to take you out. It's not going to be a slow. It's going to be a slow process. It could be fast too, but they're going to start with increments by hitting you financially, trying to socially ostracize you and all that. But it's coming. It's coming. And there is not going to be a political system to protect you, because once the crazy liberal people get into power, they're going to slowly erode the rights to the point where they'll start. You're at a point already where it's a thought crime. And social media will be there to do it. And let me tell you, the Frankenstein Villagers, because that's what liberals are. They are the Frankenstein Villagers, in case you really didn't know. They will be coming for you. They will be coming for you. And even if Trump gets elected, he's just going to stay. He's going to stay. Keep that at his difference. And this message is for the black community, because the black community to me is corporate groupthink. This is a message for the black community. You have a church on every corner in the worst neighborhoods in the world. And you run around screaming, hallelujah, praise the Lord. And you got a church on every corner. And yet your neighborhoods are the scariest places for anybody to visit, let alone live in. And why is that? The churches, it should be the safest, cleanest. I'm not talking about poverty. Because poverty doesn't mean foolishness. Historically, the world was always impoverished. But you have churches on every corner. You just have the safest neighborhoods in the world. If you really believed and practiced the things that God is about, you would have the best places, the safest places to be. But you don't. And you embrace a political doctrine that keeps you where you're at, and that is never going to change unless you really start changing how you think and how you start voting, because you'll never have any change in those areas ever. And you could keep putting churches on every corner of your streets, and you're still going to have the same issues. So that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. So I'm 10 minutes in. I have to get to work here on my little homestead, because there's things that need to be taken care of. There's priorities that circumvent the needs of the people, as far as I'm concerned. Have a lovely day.